Winter 2007. Private investigator Derek Webb is on the trail of an escort. She's being driven around central London in a taxi visiting clients. He watches as her cab pulls up outside one of the city's most exclusive hotels.
She was dressed very immaculately, and I think she was wearing a fur coat as well. She walked through the hotel, past reception, and into the lift. I followed her straight into the lift. I was carrying my bag, I didn't know what I needed. Got straight into the lift with her. She pressed the 3rd floor, I pressed the 4th floor. She got out of the 3rd floor, and when she got out of the 3rd floor, just before the lift was about to close, I put my foot in it just to look round the corner to see what room she was going in. I noticed then she knocked on a door and was gained access. Somebody let her into that room.
So you housed her? You saw her going into that room?
Saw her go into that room.
Another success for former police officer Derek Webb, who passed his intelligence on to News of the World, which was working on a sex scandal story. We've obtained this dossier of documents which gives an astonishing insight into how News of the World was operating. It's a log of every single surveillance job that Derek Webb did from 2003 to 2008. There are more than 100 names in here. Actors, celebrities, politicians and the royals. The list contains many of the most high-profile people in Britain, including members of the royal family. Derek Webb needed all of his 15 years of experience as a surveillance officer to evade the attention of the Royal Protection Squad.
They didn't rumble me, they had no idea. That proves my expertise in relation to it, that they was not aware that they were being followed. And this happened on quite a few occasions. And I was able to realise then which Royal Protection officers were with which royal party.
In March 2009, News of the World asked Derek Webb to conduct surveillance on the London home of a girl who they believe was receiving visits from Prince Harry. His former girlfriend, Chelsy Davy, had been placed under surveillance in 2006 and 2007. Derek Webb says a News of the World journalist had made the request.
He would ask me to go to Heathrow Airport and follow Chelsy Davy, which was Prince Harry's girlfriend, and follow her to where she was going, and on a number of occasions she would be picked up and they'd either go to Clarence House or she'd go to an address out in Oxfordshire, and then I'd be monitoring them to see whether there was anything further developed from there.
Many royal surveillance jobs were referred by Clive Goodman, News of the World's royal correspondent, who was convicted of phone hacking in 2007. But Derek Webb says he was never told the source of any leads.
I've never hacked a phone myself. I didn't know anything in relation to hacking. I realised that hacking was now a big business in relation to what was going back, but I never knew about it at the time, had no knowledge of it. And I was never told by, not one journalist ever told me that they'd obtained it by phone hacking.
Derek Webb says he was also dispatched to Gloucestershire to trail Prince William.
Prince William came out with Kate, followed by the Royal Protection Vehicle. I followed the Royal Protection Vehicle, knowing full well they were in front, and they ended up at Duchy Farm. The Royal Protection then peeled off, and I followed the Royal Protection around, knowing full well they'd go back there, and watch them then go for lunch, etc., etc.
Apart from the royals, there are plenty of sports stars on the list. This is Derek Webb's actual surveillance video of Gary Lineker. News of the World was investigating his private life, though we understand this particular surveillance produced nothing of interest to the paper.
Gary Lineker, that was a job that went over quite many weeks. Numerous other newspapers were looking at Gary Lineker. And Gary Lineker is one of these people that I think is more surveillance conscious. He looks, and I think he's aware of cars following him, because I think it's been done over a number of years, and people have looked at him.
Some jobs, though, were more controversial than others. Derek Webb says he was asked to carry out surveillance on the former Attorney General Lord Goldsmith in January 2005.
I followed him around. He'd mainly picked up by a chauffeur and driven to his office near Buckingham Palace,
or other locations, and I'd monitor his here, there and everywhere, and to an extent until the budget run out or they decided that they wouldn't pursue the job any further.
And did it ever surprise you that they wanted to effectively put Lord Goldsmith under surveillance?
No, it's nothing surprised me in relation to the amount of politicians, and I was doing it as a business. I was solely doing it as a business to earn a living.
Even former Home Secretary Charles Clarke was a target. At the time of the election in 2005, News of the World was putting huge resources into surveillance work on him. Derek Webb watched Mr Clarke for more than 20 days. He often used this cafe just below his election campaign office in central London as a base.
On one occasion, the police surrounded me after I'd been there 3 days and interrogated me what I was doing.
Did Charles Clarke ever clock the fact you were watching him?
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. Not at all. The police were aware. The police, when they interrogated me, I showed them my private investigator's licence, because I had a private investigator's licence, and said I was doing a domestic matter following a husband and wife, which they accepted, and that was it. I didn't tell them I was watching Charles Clarke.
The list of targets of surveillance is huge. Boris Johnson, Angelina Jolie, Simon Cowell, Paul McCartney, Charles Kennedy, David Miliband, Chelsy Davy, Elle Macpherson, Heather Mills. The list goes on and on. Sometimes the families of targets were also watched. News of the World wanted Derek Webb to follow the parents of Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe for unknown reasons. And he trailed on foot the new partner of Energy Secretary Chris Huhne as she walked around the capital.
Many of the jobs, in fact majority of the jobs, 95% of them, that I was never rumbled at all, even following for weeks on end.
For Derek Webb, the commissions from News of the World kept rolling in.
Because I kept getting results for them, they employed my services more and more. So I was getting work from them, and they were very satisfied with the work.
But Derek Webb says that after 8 years with News of the World, he was cut loose when the paper folded with no compensation. He's taking an employment case against them.
Other people were getting loyalty payments, and I was loyal to News of the World. I was loyal to News of the World, and they failed to recognise this and disregarding me as though non-entity.
But now he's decided to go public in such a spectacular way with his exclusive Newsnight interview. It's the bigger ethical questions about the scale of the surveillance which will prove tough for the paper's publisher, which gives evidence to Parliament on Thursday.